raised the spirits of Jill and Scrub, and made the whole place look more friendly and less forbidding. At first, the height and the steepness of the crag frightened them, but presently they noticed that there was an easier way up on the left, and up on the left, and that the road wound up toward it. It was a terrible climb. After the journey they had already had, and Jill nearly gave up. Scrub and Puddlegum had to help her for the last 100 yards, but in the end they stood before the castle gate. The portcullis was up and the gate was open. However tired you are, it takes some nerve to walk up to a giant's front door in spite of all those previous warnings against Harfang. It was Puddlegum who showed the most courage. "Steady pace now," he said. "Don't look frightened, whatever you do. We've done the silliest thing in the world becoming it all, but now that we are here, we'd best put on a bold face on it." With these words he strode toward the gateway, stood still under the arch where the echo would help his voice, and called out as loud as he could, "Ho, porter! Guess who seek lodging?" And while he was waiting for something to happen, he took off his hat and knocked off the heavy mass of snow which had gathered on its wide brim. "I say," whispered Scrub to Jill, "he may be a wet blanket, but he has plenty of pluck and cheek." A door opened, letting out a delicious glow of firelight, and the porter appeared. Jill bit her lips for fear she should scream. He was not a perfectly enormous giant. That is to say, he was rather taller than an apple tree, but nothing like so tall as a telegraph pole. He had bristly red hair, a leather jerkin with metal plates fastened all over it so as to make a kind of mail shirt, bare knees, very hairy indeed, and things like puttees on his legs. Puttees? I don't know. He stooped down and goggled at Puddlegum. "And what sort of creature do you call yourself?" he said. Jill took her courage in both hands. "Please," she said, shouting up to the giant, "the Lady of the Green Kirtle salutes the king of the gentle giants, and has sent us 2 southern children on this marshwiggle, his name's Puddlegum, to your autumn feast. If it is quite convenient, of course," she added. "Oh," said the porter, "that's quite a different story. Come in. Little people, come in. You'd best come into the lodge while I'm sending word to His Majesty." He looked at the children with curiosity. "Blue faces," he said. I didn't know they were that color. Don't care about it myself, but I dare say you look quite nice to one another. Beetles fancy other beetles, they do say." "Our faces are only blue with cold," said Jill. "We're not this color, really." "Then come in and get warm. Come in, little shrimps," said the porter. They followed him into the lodge, and though it was rather terrible to hear such a big door clang shut behind them, they forgot about it as soon as they saw the thing that had been longing for ever since supper time last night. Longing for. I don't know why I said it that way. A fire, and such a fire. It looked as if 4 or 5 whole trees were blazing on it, and it was so hot that they couldn't go within yards of it. But they all flopped down on the brick floor, as near as they could bear the heat, and heaved great sighs of relief. "Now, youngsters," said the porter to another giant who had been sitting in the back of the room, staring at the visitors till it looked as if his eyes would start out of his head. "Run across with this message to the house," and he repeated what Jill had said to him. The younger giant, after a final stare and a great guffaw, left the room. "Now, Froggy," said the porter to Puddlegum, "you look as if you wanted some cheering up." He produced a black bottle very like Puddlegum's own, but about 20 times larger. Let me see," said the porter. "I can't give you a cup or you'll drown yourself. Let me see, the salt cellar will be just the thing. You needn't mention it over the house. The silver will keep on getting over the here, and it's not my fault." The salt cellar was not very like one of ours. Being narrower and more upright, it made quite a good cup for Puddlegum when the giant set it down on the floor beside him. The children expected Puddlegum to refuse it, distrusting the gentle giant as he did. But he muttered, "It's rather late to be thinking of precautions now that we're inside of the door shut behind us." Then he sniffed at the liquor. "Smells all right," he said, "but that's nothing to go by. Better make sure," and took a sip. "Tastes all right, too," he said, "but it might do that at the first sip. How does it go on? He took a larger sip. He said. But is it time? But is it the same all the way down? And took another. That'll be something nasty at the bottom. I shouldn't wonder, he said, and finished the drink. He licked his lips and remarked to the children that this'll be a test, you see. If I curl up or burst or turn into a lizard or something, then you'll know not to take anything they offer you. But the giant, who was too high up to hear things Puddlegum had said, saying under his breath, roared with laughter and said, Why, Froggy, you're a man. See and put it away. Not a man, Marshwiggle, replied Puddlegum in somewhat indistinct voice. Not Frog either, Marshwiggle. At that moment the door opened behind them, and the younger giant came in, saying they're to go to the throne room at once. The children stood up, but Puddlegum remained sitting and said, Marshwiggle, Marshwiggle, very respectable Marshwiggle, respect-a-wiggle. Show them the way, young'un, said the giant porter. You'd better carry Froggy. He's had a drop more than's good for him. Nothing wrong with me, said Puddlegum. Not a frog, nothing frog with me. I'm respectable. But a young giant caught him up by the waist and said to the children to follow. In this undignified way they crossed the courtyard. Puddlegum held in the giant's fist and vaguely kicking in the air. It did certainly look like a fog, but they had little time to notice this, for they soon entered the great doorway of the main castle, both their hearts beating faster than usual, and after pattering along several corridors at a trot to keep up with the giant's paces, found themselves blinking in the light of an enormous room, where lamps glowed and fire roared on the hearth, and both were reflected from the gilding of roof and cornice. More giants than they could count stood on their left and right, all in magnificent robes, and on two thrones at the far end sat two huge shapes that appeared to be the king and queen. About 20 feet from the thrones they stopped. Scrub and Jill made an awkward attempt at a bow. Girls are not taught how to curtsy at Experiment House, and the young giants carefully put Puddlegum down on the floor, where he collapsed into a sort of sitting position. With his long limbs, he looked, to tell the truth, uncommonly like a large spider. And that is chapter 7 complete. The next chapter is the House of Harfang, and it's got this giant standing up here, and she's got like a maid dress on, like a servant's dress, and she's got this, I think probably like sheep or something in her hand. I don't know. They did say something about a feast.